Okay, I've translated Isaiah 53 using the Hebrew meter but English words, and I've basically taken the meter and followed the Hebrew in the same order as it actually appears in the Hebrew, but I've had to truncate some of the words in order to make the meter fit. I'm going to explain this translation because it's very different from what you have. A link is in the sidebar. This is only 2 pages long, and it prints sideways in portrait mode so that you can see it yourself and count it yourself. And that's going to be really important because I'm beginning to suspect now, I don't even know if I can say this without dying, that every single clause in Isaiah 53, starting at 53:1, which is right here, okay, actually benchmark something significant in Israel's history. So you can use it like a calendar per clause, not just per paragraph. I mean, see, these are the paragraphs, all right? They're all divisible by 7, and I'm certain that they're right. And every single one of them benchmarks to a significant period in Israel's history on purpose, each paragraph. Moses does the same thing with his, but I haven't retranslated Psalm 90 yet, so you can't see it. But I'm going to. That'll be in a future video. What I want you to understand is that each paragraph is a calendar that deliberately tallies to a significant period in Israel's history. Okay, these first 2 are reserved in the decree of Moses, so Isaiah does the same thing. But these 2 add up to 77, which was David's age at death. And I'm going to cover that in a later video. I already covered the meaning to some extent in the Psalm 90 videos. But this 77 is played on in Luke 3's genealogy, making Christ the 77th son. It's a play on 490. And so these first 77 syllables are not used as the chronology itself, but as the basis for it. The same thing as Moses does with the first 84 syllables of his Psalm 90. And I went through that already a little bit in this part 10s. About how it's benchmarked and split, and how Isaiah is playing off Psalm 90 verse 15, as many as, and that's why he splits them in the paragraphs that he does. But what I didn't know until I started making the video on Manasseh and Josiah is that once Isaiah gets here, and he's breaking into an annual chronology going down to 37 AD, and he does some things in ellipsis, and I'll explain that too. Once he does that, it could be that each of these these are clauses. In the Hebrew, these are each clauses. I broke the meter down by clauses, grammatical clauses. And each of the clauses has a significance. Now, the 4s you can play with. And maybe this is really 1-8 rather than 2 4s. But I just did that because it works really well to recite it. But so you might want to treat this as an 8 in your counting. And this one is a 12. Or, but see, there's 5 of them. So, you have to sort of think about which one is the 8 and which is a 12, and I just decided to break them all into 4s. The point is that when you get here, that is 56 years after Isaiah writes, and it's also very poignantly talking about Manasseh, which you hopefully saw in the Manasseh video on, what was it, part 10s, 5. I think it was part 10s 5. Okay, but that's also 656 BC, so Isaiah is playing his as many as game again. Now, 56 years after Isaiah writes is not the same as, the end of Manasseh's reign. I was confused for a little bit, and then I realized Isaiah's playing the double game. All right, Manasseh is dead 56 years after he has reigned. All right? So, taken that way, you're looking at Ammon, who was his son, who reigns for 2 years, and you have to treat this first year of the 56 as his first year of reign. All right? So that of this 8, one of those years belongs to Ammon, and the other 7 after Ammon, okay, would belong to Josiah. I think that's how it goes. Let me look. I'm sorry, I'm in so much shock about this I can't see straight. This is the worksheet, the Genius XLS worksheet. You should be familiar with it by now. In the lower left-hand corner, I'm going through. See, here's Manasseh. Okay, and he's there at a very important time. But I'm not going to cover that here. See, here's Ammon. Ammon is from 642 to 640. All right, so that's one way you could read it, except that's not really what Isaiah is doing. From this point here, he's talking about the changeover. 656 BC is when Manasseh got taken to Assyria, and he has his change of heart. So he's restored to power. Okay, why the Assyrians did that, I don't know, but they did. So he then has 16 more years left to rule before he's going to die. So again, you're going to count this as a 1, and then that would be 8 more years. So that brings you to 9. All right? And this brings you to the next 9. Now, the first 7 of them are still belonging to Manasseh, and he's still alive. But the last 2, as we just saw, belong to Ammon. So by the time you get to here, that's when Josiah starts to rule. And so that's why this is the 18th year, and that's why 35 ties to the 18th year of Josiah. Do you notice how precise the accounting is? All right? That takes you to Ammon the son, to the end of his reign. This is where Josiah starts ruling. And you'll notice these are 9 syllables. Now, I wasn't so confident that the syllabification of each clause was right. I was certain that somewhere by the end of the clause, it really tallied up to these numbers because they all balance. But within each clause, I thought, well, because in any language, you're going to slur a syllable. Okay, especially if you're beginning you're ending a word and the next word has the same sound, you're going to sort of run them together. So that's called elision in linguistics. And I made some elision assumptions. So I know that the assumptions were right by paragraph, but I wasn't so sure that they're right per clause in the paragraph. I'm thinking, if this clause is really 9, then this one might be 8, but they still all balance to 42 by the time you get to the end. Well, maybe it's more accurate than that, because this is accurate for Josiah. All right, we just saw that.